All right, welcome to the next episode of Discipline, Desire, and Dedication. My name is Dakota Lang, along with co-host Garrett Cotton. We have Mr. Mikey Lucas with us here today. Not Michael Lucas, Mikey Lucas. So we got to make sure we clarify. What's up, bro?
What's up, brother? Thank you for having me on.
I'm glad that you're here. Safe trip. What time did you get in?
Last night in the afternoon.
Okay. 3-hour flight?
Yeah, easy.
Yeah, that's about what it takes me. Austin's about 3 hours as well. Not too bad.
Yeah, flew right over Austin.
That's it. Well, cool deal, bro. Let's jump right into it. Let's do just a brief summary about yourself. You know, where you're from, how old you are, what you do currently, and how you got here today.
Sure. Yeah. So my name is Mikey Lucas. Originally born in Vegas, and 33 years old. Married to my beautiful wife Ryan. I've got 2 dogs, and I'm the founder of a company called American Energy Fund, which is a investment company that I like to say keeps the lights on and the gas tanks full.
There you go.
So we invest into American energy and American energy infrastructure through direct participation in oil and gas projects, power plant projects, pipelines, solar farms, stuff that keeps the lights on in America. And
Okay.
we're definitely very excited to capitalize on this data center arms race that we have. So very excited that we're positioned properly to be able to capitalize on that.
What got you in that industry?
So I originally from solar. So I did solar. I did door-to-door sales. Originally started back in 2013, 2014, started knocking doors, did alarms, and then got right into solar. And the vision of a sustainable energy future I knew was obviously something that I could, have as a passion because, I thought, hey, as looking for a career in my early 20s, I was like, all right, well, what do I want to do? What problems do I want to solve? Do I want to, no offense, but do I want to sell used houses, be a realtor? My mom's a great realtor, or do I want to get into the casino business like my father? And, or do I want to work in the restaurants like my cousins? They make 6 figures a year, live a great life. And I'm kind of like the black sheep. So I got off did a little crazy and went and started doing door-to-door sales and just realized that the main purpose around solar is not saving people money, but is to have a energy independence for America and so that we don't have to go overseas and fund wars over oil and gas pipelines or refineries or American interests for critical minerals or for petroleum. And that's what I got behind, right? Because I'm not a tree hugger by any means, but I obviously care about the environment. My family are all tuna fishermen, and I care about the oceans and the atmosphere and all that stuff. And worked for Elon Musk company, Solar City. Eventually, got bought by Tesla, and I just got really, dialed in with that specific vision of a sustainable energy future. And it wasn't just about solar, but I knew that one of the largest problems that if I could solve or dedicate my life to and find my life's calling or life's purpose in solving the energy crisis that we have by putting up one solar panel at a time, that would be something that would wake me up before my alarm clock. And I really liked that idea. And then I realized that I could go and start an investment company and solve even larger problems, which is what we're doing now. With again all these data centers and EV charging stations, things like that. Oil and gas, wells. Like we need more natural gas, we need more oil, we need more petroleum, we need more energy production right now. And so I because I worked in a door-to-door space, I worked on personal development. I realized I was not qualified. I learned how to be humble, learned how to be hungry, and realized a lot of these billionaires started their fund in their 20s, and I was like, if they can do it, I can do it. And thank God for Barnes & Noble and Amazon, and bought every book I could possibly find on how to raise money and, how to run companies and, how to structure funds and things like that. And just said, screw it. I'm going to go figure this thing out. Cause let me backtrack a little bit. One of the things at the end of the day, what are we working for? We're working to buy back our time. What does our generation want? Our generation wants to have time freedom to be able to go to Bali and go to Dubai and go to, Fiji and all this kind of stuff and have fun and have the things that, is cool, the Lamborghinis and the Rolexes and traveling and whatnot. But the only way to get there is the traditional American dream, which is work 30, 40 years, which they lied to us and said it was 20 years. It's really 30 or 40 years.
Never stops.
And then technically you retire and then you can live your life, right? You're supposed to sacrifice 30, 40 years and then, at that point, okay, cool, now you can do the things that you want. And our generation is obviously trying to get away from that. You know, it's a new American dream. It's not the same American dream that our parents grew up with. And, you know, I figured, okay, well, if they're doing it in 30, 40 years, is it possible to do it in 10 years? Mm-hmm. And I was like, I don't know. So I went on that journey and just started studying, you know, the art of success and the art of finance. And I was like, dude, this is actually going to be pretty easy with the amount of hacks in the batting cage of just study. If you study finance, you study investing, it's not very hard to create or duplicate what these billionaires are doing. So my entire investment thesis is, or philosophy is to invest like a billionaire, not like a millionaire. Mm-hmm. And you know, if you do the things that they're doing, which is more long term rather than short term, eventually, if you continue to, you know, just add water to it by adding money into creating your money machine, a recession-proof investment portfolio, eventually you can live the lifestyle that you want. Because at the end of the day, one of my big dreams is to put up, and I've done this a lot now, and we're obviously wanting to do more. And you know, hopefully, I hand this business down to my kids. Is to put up solar panels on orphanages, women's shelters, refugee centers, you know, drug rehabilitation centers overseas, because one of their big problems is energy security. They don't have, you know, a lot of them they don't have AC units like we have here. Like we're in a beautiful building right now that has AC. It's really cool in here. You know, overseas they don't have that. So in my head, I was like, okay, if we can make a lot of money and then go solve these world problems, why not? Let's go do it. And so that's what I've embarked on that, and it's been a pretty awesome journey. But, you know, one of the goals is not to be a man of success, but to be a man that adds value.
Yeah, that's amazing. And it's pretty interesting too, because we preach it all the time. Business is business in the sense of we don't need to go out there and figure out how to do it ourselves. Yeah. Like there's somebody before us that already did it.
100%.
And we need to find the system that was in place and replicate that, you know. And that's what I've learned through our experience, even at Performance Windows, is we've learned how a business is supposed to be structured, and we've learned the most important parts of it, and we can replicate those systems if we were to ever go somewhere else. So for us, we're, like we said earlier, we're just a couple years behind you right now in our journey. As we're going, more doors are opening. It's given us more opportunity. And eventually, we'd like, for us, we're about to start a wedding venue. We just bought property and stuff like that. We started the LLC, so it's another project that we want to master a system. We're going to bring people in who have been in the industry. Yeah. We're going to learn from experts, and we're going to replicate systems, you know, and then it's expansion at that point. But from your experience, so did you have mentors and stuff going into it, or was it a lot of self-taught stuff, or how did that work?
I definitely proclaim that I'm self-taught, but I wouldn't be here without the people that poured into my life. So, you know, credit is, you know, give credit where it's due. Mm-hmm. I didn't get here alone by any means, but I also, you know, at the same time was passed up on a lot of opportunities. But, you know, looking back at it, reflecting, I see why they passed me up for like leadership positions and things like that. So that just made me work harder. So
prove yourself.
You know, yeah, exactly. I had to prove myself, and so I read a lot of books. I just did what the successful people said to do, which was turn your car into a classroom. And so, you know, on a daily basis, I'm listening to Jim Rohn or Tony Robbins or, you know, Eric Thomas or Ed Milet. And, you know, I'm you know, garbage in, garbage out. So I'm pouring. I realized that was one of the main things that, and again, I know that's bumper sticker or whatever, but it's the truth. It really is what it is. Like I turned my car into a classroom. When I heard that the average person drives the equivalent to a 4-year degree in 2 years in their car, it's like classroom time. I was like, dude, I'm not the average person. I'm driving 30,000, 25 to 35,000 miles in a year doing door-to-door sales. I was like, dude, I can get a doctor's degree in a couple of years. And that's what I did. I took it very serious. But one of the cool parts is that I actually did a lot of repeat stuff, because I think, you know, I think I'm, you know, my learning, I guess my learning style is not like most people. I didn't read a book until 2015.
Like I'm like 24, 25 was the first time I ever wrote a book. I'm 28 now. But in the last like 3, I'm already 5 books into the year right now.
Awesome.
You know, but it's, again, knowledge is growth. And if we're not growing, you're shrinking.
100%.
I believe in the proximity aspect of it, because you are who you surround yourself with. Yeah. We don't have the luxury to hang out with Tony Robbins or David Goggins and some badass motherfuckers. The only people we get that luxury to hang out with are people who are like us, who come from nothing. Yeah. Right? So I took advantage, just like you did, of if I get in the car, if I'm going somewhere in my car, it's only to listen to a book or podcast.
Love that.
only thing that I do now. But those are the mental changes that I've had that have helped me to achieve the successes that I've seen in my door-to-door experience so far. It's because I'm wanting to be like the greats. Yeah. You know, you can change the setting and say, hey, I'm in a room with the greats, but as soon as you leave the room, you're still a piece of shit when you go home, right? Yeah. So I think that's huge. What do you think are some of the biggest books that have an impact on your successes so far?
Well, the cool part is that I started my faith journey really taking it serious back in 2012. So the Bible has had a lot to do with that. I was really just more curious about spirituality and God. And I got to give, I mean, that for sure is the level of wisdom of stories of what to do and examples. And then, or stories of what to do and then examples of what not to do. And a lot of that is through the Bible. So learning a lot of what the lessons, like trying to extract knowledge and wisdom from the lessons that are in the Bible, especially the book of Proverbs. I try to read, a proverb a day and then implement it. It's like, dude, I posted something on the internet the other day. I was like, dude, I'm like blown away every time I read the book of Proverbs, like how much knowledge and wisdom is here that is applicable to my daily life right this very second. Yeah. So that's number one. Number two is there's some sales books that have really made a major difference in my career. One of those is going to be from Orrin Claff, Pitch Anything. I've read over 80 times.
Oh, okay.
And
I read Sell or Be Sold 5 times, and I thought that was a lot. 80 is a lot. 80 is a ton.
Well,
memorize the book at that point.
Yes, I mean, Sell or Be Sold is another great book. I'm actually reading Be Obsessed or Be Average by Grant Cardone right now as well. Yep. And those books I've read 20, 30 times, and it's just I get more information from it, and then I go and apply it. And I think that's one of the key differentiators between me and other people is that it's not just I'm not trying to get fat on knowledge. I'm trying to get the knowledge and then go apply it. Absolutely. And so the boots on ground experience, which is great for door-to-door guys, because if you're learning something and then you let it go out and use it, like, hey, that's like you can actually test it.
And a lot of times, too, in my morning meetings, a lot of times I'll be like, man, the guys are sucking right now. Like, what do we need to train on? And I'll be listening to Sell or Be Sold on the way to the meeting.
And boom, you use that.
I find like this is it, bro. Like, and I walk in there and I just lay it down. And I'm just preaching Grant Cardone. It's not me. I'm just preaching the knowledge that helped me on my way to work right here. Yep. But I feel like it's my job to portray that knowledge because some of the people in the room aren't doing it on their own. Right. It's just helping me to be a leader. But growth is everything. So I really, and along with the Bible, I preach in some of my meetings. Like I use scripture because I'll explain people. They explain like, man, why am I doing so bad? And I'm like, look, the Bible says, knock and the doors will be open, seek and you will find.
And you ain't knocking. You knocked 3 doors yesterday.
I'm like, ask and you shall receive. Like the Bible, you ain't asking for help. I was like, look, you got to do what the Bible tells you what to do, man. You just gotta apply. So
as a man thinketh, you're not even, so you become. So you don't even believe. That was one of the hard parts is like belief that I can't actually get there. You're from a probably small town Louisiana. I'm from the sticks of Las Vegas. Yeah. Why me? And it's like the hard part is actually believing, and that you got to spend a lot of time on making sure that you're drilling into yourself that it can actually happen to me. I think that's super important.
I probably know the answer to this already, but would you say that you have a burn the boats mentality? Is there ever a plan B?
Oh, dude, yeah, no, I sometimes it's a little bit too bad.
Yeah.
The burn the boats is burn the boats mentality. Really happened, and it was funny because I was just talking to you guys before the show about that breakthrough that I had in Dallas. I was just in Dallas last weekend, and I'm driving, and I was 23 years old, and I used to talk to 10 years in the future Mikey, which is current day Mikey. And I didn't have the skills, knowledge, the drive, the hunger really at that time, but I knew I wanted it, so I was seeking it. Seek and you shall find. And it's interesting how when you do finally burn the boats and you fully commit, it gets significantly harder at first. Mm-hmm. And I had I think this week on Wednesday, I had a conversation with my team, and I was like, we are at a pivotal point right now with the Mikey Lucas brand and just me in general. Like I'm at God has given the vision of it is, or the illustration of it is I'm on a road, right, on a highway, and it says last exit before the next gas station, 100 miles. I look down and I got 90 miles in the gas tank, and I can either get off and miss the opportunity, or I can just go with it, praying to God that there's some downhill so I can save some miles, or that God's going to figure out how to get me there. And there's always that other. We always know that there's that when your gas tank says 0 miles left, there's always that little reserve left. So I'm at that pivotal point now of do I burn the boats again and go forward within American Energy Fund and with just the personal brand and stuff like that. And I'm in, dude. I'm going, bro. I mean, I'm too far. Yeah. I'm too far in now. I got to keep going. So, but again, it's hard because people doubt themselves, and again, that's why like that self mastery, personal development journey is so important. Self belief is so important. Like you're gonna be it's gonna be you. I heard this from Alex Hormozy recently. It's like you're going to be in a room, an auditorium, and there's going to be a slow clap, and that's just going to be you for a very long time. There's a triathlon or a running or one of those ultra marathon athlete that I heard a story on recently. I read on that he said there's people in the beginning of the race cheering you on, and then at the end of the race cheering you on, like, oh, he did it, he came here. And that like blew my mind because I was like, in the beginning, if you listen to all these successful people's stories, they always say like in the beginning, like, hey, people are supporting you and I got the podcast going. Great job, guys. And then a year down the road, 2 years down the road, 3 years down the road, where's all the people that were supporting you?
I feel that right now. Like where we're at. I'm like, man, when we first started, everybody was hyped. The whole company was on board. But now, that's like made us even bring it back. Like, let's get back to the company a little bit.
And what's really cool about that is that is a sign that you guys are exactly where you need to be.
It's good.
Because
we're in the middle of the race.
And the hardest part, I think the hardest part about that whole thing is that we desire as humans, especially as men, we desire to be cared about, to be loved, to know that we're enough. And when people are not like actively supporting you and commenting on your stuff or like sharing your stuff, and they're not doing that, then you're like, maybe I should just go back. It's more comfortable to be in the I have a dream mentality rather than I am Nike just doing it.
That's right.
And it's hard, but you guys know exactly that's exactly where you need to be. You're exactly where you need to be. It's good.
Growing up, talk about your journey as far as growing up. You said your mom's a real estate agent, right? And your dad works in the casino, and your cousins, are in the service industry. Yep. Talk about what was that mental switch for you to make you realize that, okay, this is not what I wanted? Was there like something that happened in your life?
Yeah.
Kind of elaborate on that.
So I played sports growing up, and I lived in a lower, or I guess middle class neighborhood, and I don't have a story of like I grew up with dirt floors or anything like that. But we're definitely the poorest people in a middle class neighborhood, and I wanted to play baseball. I had a passion for baseball, and I was like, man, I'm going to go pro. But lo and behold, I wasn't as good.
Didn't work out.
Yeah, it didn't work out. But I knew that I wanted to do something. I knew that I wanted, like there was key moments in my life when I do reflection and look back that there are certain people in my life throughout childhood to today that poured into my life that told me about my potential and that I could, was this leader, and I'm like, I'm a third grader. How am I a leader? No one's following me. No one's following me. What do you mean? But there was times in my life, in my career, where people poured into me, and I mean, I'm very grateful for that. And that's why now one of my daily desires is to make somebody's day. Whether it's an Uber driver or a Starbucks barista or a pilot or a tenant or whatever, to make somebody's day, because those things are the reason why I've been sober from heroin for going on 12 years now, and the reason why I continue to push to get to the next level. But yes, the childhood growing up really was very family oriented, which was very important. I grew up with 2 older brothers and a little sister. And we were very family oriented, a lot of cousins and a lot of family time, and that was super important. So that was ingrained into my head to have, the most important thing is family, and you have each other and look at, protect each other and look after each other. And then it also became a bad thing where all the bad things that my brothers did, I wanted to do more bad things than them. So it is what it is. But growing up, having first of all, both my parents there were all the way up to basically my senior year was extremely a benefit for me. So I'm very grateful for that. But my dad he instilled, hard work, and we all did chores around the house. I was the gardener. I was the pool boy. I was basically the waterer that did all, I was the gardener around the house. I was the guy that did all that stuff. So he ingrained, chores and discipline in that growing up. And, thankfully we did get paid $10 a week to do our chores. But yeah, I would say, I got into some trouble. And that's when it kind of started to, when I started to find myself, I realized that school wasn't the best thing for me, because the way that school actually was built was not designed for how Mikey Lucas learned. Mm-hmm. And I didn't learn that until after college. And I dropped out 3 times. I never finished college, thank God. Yep. I hire a lot of people that have college degrees now, but
I went for 5 years and no degree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I realized that I needed to have knowledge, and to find knowledge you had to read, or to get around people like proximity, like you guys are saying. Mm-hmm. But growing up, I guess the main thing there is I knew that I could do something. I just didn't know what it was going to be. And I didn't necessarily not like fine dining. I thought working in fine dining restaurants in Vegas was obviously really fun, and I cared about it because, they told us like, hey, some people save up for 3, 4, 5 years to come and eat at this steakhouse, right? So give them an experience. Yeah. And I really liked that because I was in theater as well, and I really liked, I like performing and, performances, right? And so I did like, don't get me wrong, I really did like the restaurants, but there was a day that early on in my restaurant career that I was like, man, like I'm the lowest on the totem pole here. I'm going to have to work my birthday, all the holidays. Like I'm not going to be able to be with my family. And as you guys know now, like family is really important. Right. And so I realized, okay, I can continue to work in the restaurants, make, $80,000 to $150,000, $200,000 a year working in restaurants, serving fine wine, and, even being able to taste the wine and stuff like that. Like it was an amazing experience. But I realized as a 20-year-old, 21-year-old, I was like, do I want to be 45 and still working in a restaurant? And it wasn't that I wouldn't have taken pride in that. I would have been a great waiter, captain. But I was like, dude, I think I can do more. And I was sitting outside of the moment. I was sitting outside the restaurant after closing, because I would always show up early. I'd show up, 15, 20 minutes early, get in there, help out, and stay 20 minutes, 30 minutes later after closing. And that was, because, I wanted to get my sommelier license, a certificate or whatever, and learn wine so I can grow in that field, right, in restaurants. And that was really the only way to actually learn. And I was sitting outside one night, sitting on the strip in Las Vegas, outside the restaurant. Everyone's driving out. I'm like, where are all these people? What do they do? Like, what are they doing with their life? And I would always, I kind of, I guess, people watch, I suppose. But I'm always wondering, like, in a positive way, like, how did they get here? What does their life look like? What are the pains that they're going through? And I was sitting there. I was like, man, like, where am I going to be at 30? And I didn't know. And I was okay with that. And it's okay to not know where you're going to go. I think in one of the downsides about school is like when you turn like 15, 16, there's like career day, everyone dresses up in suits, comes to school, and you have to like figure out what the hell you're going to do with your life at 15 years old. Like, dude, yeah. I am so glad I am not doing what I thought I was going to do at 15 years old. Right. And it's a myth. Like, dude, like it's a fallacy. Like, you should not know what you're going to do at 15 years old. Even at 20 years old, maybe you don't know what to do. But at that time, I was sitting there and I was like, man, like, what am I going to do? And a buddy of mine called me and was like, hey, man, we're going to go out and we're going to, make 50, 60 grand in a summer, knocking doors, selling alarm systems. And I was like, 3 months, 50 grand? That's what I make in a year as a back waiter at this restaurant. And I was like, screw it. I asked the manager of the restaurant, I was like, hey, this is an opportunity. We're pretty slow in the summertime. Do you mind if I go do this? He's like, yeah, absolutely. So I was so good because I showed up early and stuff like that I had my job to come back to. And so I swung for the fences. I just didn't forget the bat. Mm-hmm. And so at that point I went out, knocked doors. I absolutely sucked. I was terrible. Mm-hmm. And I never sold anything. I was a street pharmacist back in the day. I never sold anything that people didn't actually need physically. Yeah. Right. So, I thought I was good at sales and I wasn't. Thought I was good at communications. I wasn't. Negotiations. I wasn't. And went out there and got my teeth kicked in for the first year. I think I sold not even 60 accounts my first summer, and realized that the people that I was around, these guys that were 2, 3, 4, 5 year veterans, I was like, they are just a couple years ahead of me. Like, if I actually go and treat this like a sport, I'll eventually get better.
Yep.
And so instead of going out in Miami when we lived in Miami and going out and partying with them on the weekends, sure, I did go a couple times, but I didn't feel like that was my crowd, because remember, I was blessed with having the experience in Vegas where that party scene was my entire life. Like I had already been there, done that. Before I was 21.
We relate to that because in Louisiana, we grew up in a party scene as well.
Yeah.
Like 15 years old, we're having parties at the house, everything like that.
Ragers, dude.
And
bonfires, all that.
To the point of hitting 21, like we don't even want to drink no more. Yeah. You know, but that's the biggest blessing we ever had. I think about it all the time. I'm so blessed that I got all that crap out of my way early, because it's to the point where we bring people into our company and I explain to them, I'm like, look, we're not going to the bar. That's Louisiana lifestyle. We're not doing that lifestyle anymore. This is a lifestyle of changing for the better.
Yeah, 100%.
And so but again, we're very, very similar stories as far as like the way that you've had your experiences going through failure. My first 4 months were absolute failure. I had 3 weeks without my first sale, 18 appointments to run, and just persisted through failure. Yeah. And eventually, but the thing is that we never quit. Right? It's like we knew we will figure it out eventually, because there's guys in the room that are making this kind of money and they're saying the same thing as me. Yeah. Like we have the same pitch. How is he making it out? So I look at sport mentality. Yeah. Kobe Bryant, he practiced 4 times a day. Everybody else practiced 2 times a day. Yep. He wanted it more. Yep. And when I switched to that mindset is whenever I started to see the successes.
100%.
Was it kind of like a moment in your door-to-door where you had that turning point? Or was it from season to season?
There's definitely multiple moments, but again, going back to like the whole burn the boats thing was instead of looking at it, I think this is a really great topic, because I think the people that are listening to the show and the people that are in your office, and the people that, I'm in front of as well, we were told that if there's pain, that means you shouldn't keep going forward, right? That, hey, if you're suffering, if things are hard, like that's probably like where God doesn't want you to be, because God's some mystic creature that's like sitting on a fluffy cloud. It's like, no, dude, like this dude, like go read the Bible. He talked about, these dudes all died. They got hung upside, and all of his boys got like hung upside down, and like it's going to be hard. So the hardest part, I think, about what our generation needs to know is that just because it's hard doesn't mean that you're not in the right place. It is, there's an illustration that I heard recently that the fruit doesn't, we want to go from mountaintop to mountaintop, right? Like, yeah, we did it. I hit my golden door. Let's go.
Yep.
But in reality, there's no fruit on the mountaintop. Fruit doesn't grow on the top of the mountain. Fruit grows in the valley.
That's right.
And so when you're being refined and being tuned and you're reprogramming your mind, that happens in the trenches. Yep. And so when if I can do any level of encouragement for you guys and for the people that are listening, is just because it's hard doesn't mean that it's not exactly where you need to be. You are exactly where you need to be. And if you're not where you need to be, then decide to make a change of direction and go the other direction.
Right. Yeah, I agree. They have to decide that they are willing to take on the hard. Because a lot of people, as soon as it gets hard, it's instinct, it's innate to run from it.
But who told us that it was going to? Look, it's not like, go look at all the successful people. Mm-hmm. Not one of them says, "Oh yeah, like it was so easy, like it just happened." Like
every business owner has a terrible story.
I'm so confused. Like it's and most people, and again, another issue that we have with our generation is that it's not our fault. It's how our parents and their parents raised them, and that generation going up to like the whole microwave generation of like instant gratification. Yeah. I get it. We want success. We grew up in the J.G. Wentworth mentality of it's my money and I want it now, right? And I get that. Like you want to have success overnight, but at the same time, when you look at and you study what the most successful people have done and what they all say it's going to take 10, 15, sometimes even 20 years. Mm-hmm. If you go back to the Bible, Abraham, the homie didn't get like his vision until he was like old, right? Old. And so like, what do you do in between? What do you do in between? And then there's a quote that I texted somebody the other day. I was like, he's like, dude, how's everything going? And I was like, I'm enjoying being a tadpole before I turn into a frog, and I'm enjoying being a setter at Performance Windows before I become an owner or before I become a closer. I'm enjoying, it's like the whole mentality of like, when people, like for myself, and this was a problem that I had, was I wanted to be married. My blueprint was I was going to be married by 27.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I didn't have a girlfriend.
Yep.
At 27.
Hard to get married.
Right.
Girlfriend.
Hard to have yeah, exactly. And so when I realized that I needed to change my blueprint of enjoy your singleness and be present and maximize your singleness, because when your season changes and you get married, things are going to change. And they all say that, right? They are right. Like when you get married, everything changes. And then when you have kids, everything changes again. They do say that, and that is true. We don't have kids yet, but right now I'm in the season of enjoying my wife where we don't have kids. Yeah. Instead of being like, man, I want to have kids. Like, dude, I want little Mikeys running around, bro.
Yeah.
My brother's got 6 kids.
I think about that too. It's a great point to love the moment that you're in, because for me, I came into door to door, and I had this thought process that if I can make my life as hard as possible, door to door is going to be easy. Like going and talking to a homeowner, and a homeowner, can you read? Like, oh yeah, I can't read. I'm from Louisiana. I used to use that all the time, but it turns into where I love those moments. I look forward to those because it saved me time to get to the next person. But it's the same thing. As far as in my first 2 years, I was able to. I had 2 kids, got married, and housed over 14 recruits over 24 months. And so massive action, extremely stressful, trying to balance relationship, being a father, being a market owner, recruiting, just so much going on. But I loved every second. It's kind of like, I don't know, fraternity life for people. It's like pledgeship. Yeah. That whole 2 years, even though I had different positions, it was so much going on and so stressful and so intensive that it's the most rewarding thing that I've ever done in my life at this point. Like, I'll never regret it all. I mean, I've had some low moments, during failures and stuff, but those are the things that make me who I am today. Mm-hmm. But it's just
I had a 7th grade football coach, and I don't even know how it registered with me whenever he said it, and it stuck with me until today. But he always said that pain is weakness leaving the body. Mm-hmm. Yep. So, like you were saying, right? Whenever it's getting hard, that's where you need to be, because it's going to get better, Mm-hmm. And I feel like one of the things I always tell my office is, right, the reason that there are 1%ers is because the 99% stopped on the last step to be a 1%er, right? Whenever we say diamonds are made under pressure. Whenever it gets hard and you want to quit, you got to keep pushing, because that is when you're going to hit your breakthrough.
Yeah. When they start showing emotion in the meetings is when I start smiling. Yeah. Like when they start getting mad, I'm like, oh, we're close. You're so close right now. And it's like, but sometimes I got to catch them in the parking lot because I might not see them again. I did that in Kaysville. I was like, hey, don't leave just yet. Let me talk to you. But it's a good thing, though. Yeah.
Heck yeah. I still tell myself pain is weakness leaving my body.
Yep.
I still have that saying, and that is so true. Yeah, and if you can do anything or get anything out of this show, it's really when push comes to shove, the real you, will the real Mikey Lucas stand up?
Yep.
And 100%. One thing, so you bring on a lot of door-to-door, like Golden Door winners onto your podcast, right? So what's the most common, trait that you see with the people that have Golden Doors?
I get that question asked a lot. There's quite a few of them. One of them is that it's over 60, I think it's 63% of them were wrestlers or do some sort of mixed martial arts.
Really?
Yep.
I was a wrestler.
Yep.
I was a wrestler. I failed the hydration test, so I didn't get to wrestle.
But you were a wrestler.
Yep.
See?
Yep.
We're at 50%.
In high school.
Right there. That's 50% right there.
Right. Well, 66%, I guess. So,
there you go.
Yep.
I wanted to, but
I wrestled as well.
Yeah.
And then another common one was they all quote. I don't know if they get prepared for it. Sometimes I guess some guys do because they don't get on podcasts a lot. But almost every one of them, like the overwhelming majority, have read and like quote the book Atomic Habits.
Really?
Yeah, it's like that. That's a very, very common situation. The majority of them will have some sort of physical activity that they do, whether it's hiking or nature or whatever, or they go to the gym or they practice mixed martial arts. Mm-hmm. That's a very common trait. Majority of them have imposter syndrome. Mm-hmm. The majority of them have self-doubt, the self-belief problem, like the I don't belong to be here.
The fake it till you make it is in every role that I get, I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. I pretend when I was a marketing I just pretend to be a marketing coordinator. Whatever that guy would be, they coordinate things to market. I'm like, I'm just going to be that guy. Yeah. And then same thing with close. I'm a closer, so I close deals. I pretend to be a closer.
Yeah.
Market owner. I pretend to own this market, and I just figure it out as you go. But I've always felt like, am I doing this right? Yeah. But it's worked out. It has.
I feel like a lot of people, Golden Door winners and stuff like that, just from my experience, I feel like the difference that separates a Golden Door winner compared to just like an average rep is that the Golden Door winners are willing to put themselves in the position to possibly fail. Yeah. Right? The average reps, they always chase that comfort, right, where they know that they're going to be okay. A Golden Door winner, somebody in the 1% of the industry, they'll go put themselves in any situation, they'll find a way to win. Yeah. I feel like the people and that's not just Golden Door winners, maybe just in life in general. The people that are able to take that next step are the people that are always seeking that discomfort. What can challenge me? Like you said, the exercising, right? Whatever that specific thing that it is for that individual person, they always find something to challenge them on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah. Another thing that was very common was the overwhelming majority of them were readers.
Mm-hmm. Got to grow. If you're not growing, you're shrinking.
Overwhelming majority of them were readers. And
finding the blueprint. Somebody did it before us.
Yep.
Replicate. Do not recreate.
Yep.
Or don't create. Yeah.
Heck yeah, bro. You got any last words you want to wrap up on?
Dude, go out and get a Golden Door.
That's right.
Like, go out and be comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Like, it's super important that if you're going to be the one for your family, if you're going to be that guy, be that lady, you have to do the things. Like, if you want things to change, you have to change. Mm-hmm. If you want to have something different than you have right now, you have to do something different than you've never done before.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. And then again, just understand that it's going to take longer. If not double, probably 10 times longer than you think it's going to take. But those small daily disciplines over time do add up. We all like to focus on the sensational things, but it's those small daily ones. And then I guess a habit kind of situation here would be is if you're trying to build new habits, work on maybe one or two at a time. And if you're let's just say you're wanting to hit the gym, more. Like, don't progress. It's progress over perfection. Don't say I'm gonna hit the gym 6 days a week. It's, hey, I feel healthy and vital every time I go to the gym. Mm-hmm. Instead of like, oh, dude, like I didn't go to the gym 6 times this week, dude. Like, I'm a failure. It's like lower the bar of expectation so that you can hit it, and then grow in gratitude. And so that way you can grow in your discipline.
Yep. I always say the small accomplishments, they lead to you're just a person who achieves those accomplishments. So going to the gym, waking up.
Yep. We do goal accountability every morning on appointments set. And I say the worst habit that you could ever have is the habit of not hitting goals.
Yeah.
And if you are consistently not hitting your goals have zero value, like you said, right? If you set this bar, so high and you're never able to achieve it on a consistent basis, well, then at the end of the day, your goal has zero value because you're not never hitting it. You know what I mean? Right? Goals are made to be hit. They're not dreams.
Yeah.
So
try not to go 2 days in a row of not hitting your goals.
That's
right.
And if 2 days is too much, then or not enough, maybe go not 3 days.
Yep.
So I'm not going to go 3 days without, as an example, if your statistic is, hey, I need to knock 62 doors a day. It's, hey, if I don't hit 62 doors today, and then the next day, well, don't let it happen on the third day. Like go and hit your doors. And so if you can break it down into, instead of it being like quarterly or, monthly, you can, or even yearly, you want to break down the goals and make it where, okay, cool. So I was able to hit my 62 doors today and the next day, but I didn't hit the next day. It's like, oh, well, I'm a failure now. It's like, no, you're not a failure. You just didn't hit it that day. Cool. So don't let it, like my standard is don't let that happen 2 days in a row.
Yeah.
Or 3 days in a row, whatever works. But finding out what works for you when it comes to that stuff to build that self-belief is going to be the most important, decision and attribute that you can acquire in your life.
Heck yeah. Well, bro, I'm super pumped. It was a great episode. I enjoy. You have a lot of knowledge. I'm looking forward to coming on your podcast.
Yeah.
I think that'll be cool to share our story, go a little bit more in depth as well.
Very excited.
They can find you on Instagram.
Yep.
And your podcast or anything like that. Do you have anything on YouTube or anything like that?
Yeah. So my YouTube, all my social media is Mikey Lucas.
Okay.
And then my podcast is Road to the Golden Door. And so that's on YouTube, Instagram, Apple Podcasts, all that stuff. So Road to the Golden Door, it's a great show. You guys obviously be on there. I can't wait to have you guys on there.
Yeah. And we got a lot of people from Performance Windows that are chasing that golden door. So go check out his podcast. I know y'all definitely get a bunch of information from different people's stories and stuff like that. So cool deal, bro. We appreciate you coming on. Make sure that you like, subscribe, share the post, and drop a comment below on what you loved about the podcast, and we'll catch you next time. Peace.